abject two-tier policing in our society, given the likes of Lucy Connolly and others going to prison and being actually pressured to plead guilty against plead guilty for racial crimes, because otherwise they're threatened with being incarcerated on remand for months and months and months that would actually then exceed their ultimate sentence. I mean, that is why these people are being seen as being guilty of race crimes, is because they were put under pressure to plead guilty. But by contrast, people that punch police officers and murder three little girls seem to be treated demonstrably in a very, very different and soft-handed way altogether.
Breaking right now, the councillor husband of the convicted criminal for a ex-post, Lucy Connolly, is now being persecuted with the type of lawfare used against a politician like Donald Trump simply because he supported his own wife. I'm completely disgusted about this. You know, I have been in touch with Raymond throughout this whole process. He is a very well-respected local councillor who sits on many of the committees for the two areas that he represents. His wife made a mistake. They suffered family tragedy, which meant the Southport massacre and the slaying of those three young girls hit her very, very hard. I won't give you the full background here, but they lost a child because of NHS failure. She made one tweet and she is behind bars for 30 months. It's disgusting. But that is Lucy Connolly, not Raymond Connolly, a very popular local politician who has been reselected to fight his seat for the Conservative Party next year. So now what do the despicable mainstream media do? Try and drive him out of his job. So let me take you through this story from the NN Journal that reports the councillor husband of convicted racist Lucy Connolly is under a code of conduct investigation by West North Hampshire Council for comments he made in defence of his wife. The authorities' monitoring officer, Sarah Hall, has instructed an independent investigator from the law firm Bevan Britton to decide whether Councillor Ray Connolly has breached the code of conduct for public comments he made in the aftermath of his wife's arrest for stirring up racial hatred online. So they now want to publish Raymond for what he said about his wife. So what did he say about his wife? What did he say about the woman that he loved, who he had watched go through unbearable tragedy when they lost their child because of NHS failure, who was simply pointing out her horror, the horror that we all shared, actually, in an unartful manner, I will give you that, after the Southport massacre? Well, it was an interview with Sly News where I believe Raymond Connolly was dignified, brave, and didn't say anything that should see this sham investigation. And let me tell you, by the way, you need some background to this interview. Raymond had just found out that his wife had pled guilty and she was locked up. She was remanded in custody. She is still locked up. But I just want to show you the interview here.
These last few months have been quite traumatic for Lucy and the children. The stuff I hear on the TV is not really Lucy. She's probably the opposite of what she's having to admit to, but she knows that she's overstepped the mark and there's consequences for it. So hopefully she'll be able to learn from this and move on with her life.
What she said about it to you now, reflecting on obviously what happened and what she did?
It's just a moment of, an upset housewife, really. Just seeing children in the reports with all the misinformation, and just got dragged into it. And obviously she regrets it. She did.
What the hell did Raymond Connolly just say then that is making him the target of this investigation? Which, by the way, is run, quite ironically, by the Authorities Standards and Democracy Committee. Remember, this guy is a very popular, democratically elected politician, and the committee, if they decide he is in breach of the code, could actually remove him from committees and also order him to offer a full apology to the council. So Charlie Bentley Astor, I am completely outraged by this. I mean, I don't believe that Lucy Connolly should be behind bars for her ex-post in the first place. But why the hell is the West Northamptonshire Council now coming after her husband?
Well, the establishment has to show that it's completely intolerant of intolerance. And so no one can get away scot-free. If you're appearing to apologise in any capacity for anyone that's been charged with these things, then you're just as bad as them. You're complicit, and therefore you're perpetuating the systemic racism in this country, which is absolute nonsense. You know, the whole reason free speech is so important is because if people aren't able to say the things they wish they could otherwise do when they're very angry, they go out and do it. And so, you know, that's what the riots were. People were unable to articulate themselves in any other way than being extremely violent, you know. And I've had to say before that I'm very blessed that I'm able to speak and have something of a platform, because if I didn't, I'd really struggle. And so I don't think anyone can truly look down upon this woman, particularly if she's repentant of what she's said. And certainly no one should be going after her husband for standing by his wife, which any man absolutely should be doing.
But he said that she regretted it. He said that she was a housewife who was deeply upset. I mean, Russell Quirke, I mean, let's just put aside the fact, by the way, for 1 minute, that Lucy Connolly is behind bars for 30 months. It makes me feel sick. She has a 12-year-old daughter. They lost a child. I mean, that makes me sick in the first place. But was there anything that Raymond Connolly said that you think makes it inappropriate for him to continue in his role as a councillor for the Conservative Party?
Absolutely not. So obviously, look, we've seen that particular footage. I don't know if he was interviewed anywhere else, or indeed
No, he
if
wasn't.
set out tweets. What one narrative
No.
I did see, that he simply said online somewhere that his wife is not a racist, and I think to show remorse, as he has done on her behalf, is the right thing to do. I mean, obviously, the tweet that she put out was ill-advised. It was distasteful. I agree with you, though, Dan. I think, look, you know, to remonstrate and actually to call for mass deportations. Now, I would argue that calling for mass deportations, a bit like Donald Trump, the 47th elected president of the United States, is doing right now, is neither racist nor an offence. Now, I know she said some other things that were distasteful, but I can't see anything that Councillor Ray Connolly has said in defence of his wife and in showing remorse that is inappropriate or distasteful. But let me tell you, I know something about the standards process in local authorities, because I was a councillor for 8 years in Brentwood Council, and it probably won't surprise you to learn that I had multiple complaints levied against me through the
You, Russell, never.
Yeah, but you know why? And I think only ever one was upheld, which was a kangaroo court type thing. And look, I'll spare you the details, but I'll tell you exactly what the standards process is within local authorities. It is a politically weaponized process only. So what happens is you get opponents, either members of the public or normally other councillors on the other side of the chamber, your political opponents, that introduce and levy all sorts of ridiculous complaints against you because of what they thought you said or what they think you meant. And actually then the council, to a degree, is bound to look at that complaint. But what the council should be doing, if there is no case to answer at kind of face value, they should throw the aggrieved complaint out immediately. So the fact now that Ray Connolly, apart from losing a child and now having his wife in prison for 31 months, has got to go through the indignity and the stress of a very, very public process. And frankly, whoever the people are that have levied these complaints against them are, in my opinion, vile and disgusting individuals.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, has the man not suffered enough? And let's just remember, he has committed no crime whatsoever. His only crime is standing by the woman who he loves. And I think that makes him a very honourable man. actually. But Charlie Bentley Astor, of course, there is a bigger point here when it comes to the Southport massacre and the cover-up over the Southport massacre, which is that one of the reasons why there was so much anger from people like Lucy Connolly is that we knew that the authorities were not telling us the full story. We knew that the authorities were not telling us everything they knew. And we know now that they are still not telling us everything. Now, I know you're doing a lot of work on this. How, what can you tell us?
I mean, they almost certainly would have known about the ricin and the Al Qaeda manual from day one, if at a push, a couple of days. But we've seen the police were at the Rudy Cabana's house, closing it all off and putting up forensic tents by 5 o'clock that day. So, was he known to the authorities beforehand? If he's had stuff like that in his possession, it would be highly illogical to not have him on their radar. And more to the point, if that he wasn't in fact on their radar, why? And I think it's not simply who he is and his background and the type of crime that makes the authorities want to clamp down upon this. It's the fact that there's almost certainly failures on several different levels, going right up to the top, that need covering up as well.
But first, I love the holidays. It's my favourite time of year in so many ways. But I can find it to be very demanding going to all the events, dinners, looking for gifts and planning the day itself. Every year I tend to burn out quicker than the last, and it might have something to do with getting older. But this year I don't plan to burn out at all. Getting older is inevitable, but feeling older isn't. As we get older, our body's ability to create energy declines, but recent scientific discoveries have found we can actually increase our energy levels in our cells by taking something called NMN. Now, NMN has been shown to increase energy and endurance, activate our body's ability to burn fat, enhance mental function and health, improve blood pressure, regulate blood sugar levels, and support many other health markers. Finding high-quality pure NMN is hard, though, and that's why I use Verso. They conduct third-party testing for each batch produced to guarantee you get what you paid for. It contains the highest quality of NMN and other research-backed ingredients too that have been shown to increase energy levels and slow down aging. I've taken it for some time. I feel like a younger version of me, more energy, enhanced endurance, improved cognition, fat loss, better sleep, and when I do get a cold, which happens at this time of year, I recover so much faster. So click on the link in the description on YouTube and Rumble, or head on over to Verso, which is buy.ver.so, and use the coupon code Outspoken at checkout. I'm just going to repeat that address for you: www.buy.ver.so/outspoken. Use the coupon code Outspoken for that 15% discount. You can find the link as well in the show notes below this video or on screen now. I know. And Nigel Farage says that he hears they're trying to push back Rudy Cabana's trial. Russell Quirke, it all seems designed to stop us having conversations. And that's where I believe the sentence of Lucy Connolly is so sinister and so chilling, because actually it is to send a message, isn't it? Once the trial is over, shut up. Don't say anything. That's how they want us to feel. Because if you do, we might just lock you up.
And at the same time, of course, we've got the Manchester airport thugs. We're now 160 days on from that particular incident. We're 3 months on from Greater Manchester Police actually submitting a file to the Crown Prosecution Service. So the CPS have had that file on the Manchester airport thugs, those thugs that we saw assaulting police officers. There's absolutely no excuse under any circumstances for that, in my opinion. So that also is being delayed. There's obviously political influence here. And I suspect, look, to use another parallel, is this seems to me to be akin to what happened with the Rochdale grooming gangs. Now, some people might think I'm being alarmist here. I'm not. The Rochdale grooming gangs and actually Pakistani grooming gangs across Britain, all of that was covered up, delayed, And in the end, the police admitted that they were not prepared to investigate and prosecute many of the perpetrators of sexual assaults against young white girls, simply because they were scared of racial tension, there being community retribution. I mean, if there isn't an example there or an absolute demonstration of abject two-tier policing in our society, given the likes of Lucy Connolly and others going to prison and being actually pressured to plead guilty for racial crimes, because otherwise they're threatened with being incarcerated on remand for months and months and months that would actually then exceed their ultimate sentence. I mean, that is why these people are being seen as being guilty of race crimes, is because they were put under pressure to plead guilty. But by contrast, people that punch police officers and murder 3 little girls seem to be treated demonstrably in a very, very different and soft-handed way altogether.
Very good point. Very good point. It's very disturbing. And of course, we will keep pushing for the truth. I've done as much as I can within the bounds of the laws, certainly much more than the mainstream media, but just trust me, there is much more on this story to come. Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go wherever you are.